Welcome back to the Infinite Creators Podcast. I want to thank you again for tuning in. For this week's show, I have a lady by the name of Laura Bonner. Now, she's from Greencastle, and she started a company called the Muff Liquor Company, and they are an alcohol company. Now, Laura's company has been doing amazing, and she's going around the world, and she's won multiple awards. And I've only known Laura, this is my second time meeting her. And the first time we connected online, we really connected instantly, and it was really interesting to hear her journey. And we just got deep so fast. And I was like, whoa. We need to hold up and we need to just save this conversation for when we meet in person and get it on the podcast. So I'm really excited for this because it's not just going to be all about business. It's also going to be like her challenges and, what has really helped her move forward in life and how it's helped her in business, And so, yeah, I hope you enjoy this podcast. And if you're enjoying them, please press subscribe and you'll get all the notifications for the latest episodes. Enjoy. Welcome to the Infinite Creators Podcast, Laura. How are you?
Hi Ryan, how are you? Thanks for having me.
Very well. Thank you very much. We connected not so long ago, just a few weeks back through a mutual friend of ours, Paula.
Absolutely.
And, when I started this podcast, before I started this podcast, you actually had crossed my mind as someone that I'd like to reach out to, even though I didn't even know you at the time.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh,
so
we're aligned.
We are. I had heard Paula mention your name a few times, and I'd admired what you're doing.
Thank you.
In the alcohol industry. I'm very impressed, and it's a pleasure to have you here today.
Oh, thank you.
An absolute pleasure.
It's a pleasure to be here.
So, look, if you want to just introduce yourself, give the listeners an idea of who you are and what you do.
Goodness, it's such a hard one. My name's Laura. I'm from Greencastle in Inishowen. I'm 38 years young, and I am the founder and CEO of the Muff Liquor Company. So we produce premium potato-based spirits. We have a gin and vodka and whiskey, which was inspired by my grandfather, Philip McLennan. And we're going 6 years. And that's where we're at the moment, I suppose. Ask me more questions, I'll answer.
Amazing. Sure, I have so many questions to ask you, but I'll just try and keep each one short and sweet. So where did it all begin, this journey for you?
The company?
Yeah.
Actually quite young. When I was a teenager, I became obsessed with the idea of why poaching couldn't be bottled and sold. I didn't understand the legality of it, the moonshine part. So when I was 19, I sent an email to my two brothers and my sister, and the subject was the Muff Liquor Company, and I said to them that I was dropping out of law school and I was going to come home and I was going to learn how to make vodka from my granddad's potatoes. I was going to call the company the Muff Liquor Company. And that was it. And no one replied. My brother rang me and he was like, do you not think we've got enough going on? Our mum was died, unfortunately, at the time. And he was like, this is the last thing we need. Like, she's asked you to do... My mum wanted me to do law. There was a reason I did it was because of that. Mm-hmm. And then the old emotional guilt kicked in. I saw myself through, got my degree. But every time anybody asked me what I want to do in life, it was back to, I'm going to own the Muff Liquor Company. So even when I left or finished college and went to London, when you're in your interviews and people say, tell us something interesting about yourself or whatever, I was like, I'm actually just here to make a bit of money. I'm going to move home. I'm going to set up the alcohol company. It's going to be called the Muff Liquor Company. I'm going to make it from potatoes. And then 12 years later, I actually did it when I was 32.
So it's not just an idea that came kind of recently. This is something that's always been with you.
It's been brewing, yeah, for sure.
Very good.
The only problem was because my friends would say, this is a pipe dream. And I was like, nah, I'm going to make it happen. And then the day I actually made it happen, I remember waking up next morning going, oh my God, I have a company. I actually make this successful. I have to make it run. And yeah, jiggers, the pipe dream was very much a reality at that point then.
So where did it actually spark? Where was that moment that, you got that inspiration to say, right, that's it. And I'm going to call it the Muff Liquor Company.
I don't know. I just had it in me. I don't know when I couldn't give you a pinpoint to when it was or why, But
And why the name?
well, like my dad asked me that there years ago, and I was like, well, the Greencastle Liquor Company doesn't have the same ringtone to it. So, and in fairness, the amount of people that have messaged me over the years saying you stole my company name, I wouldn't have to work. I'm telling you, I would buy €1 for every time I got an email or a message through. So, like, you look at, I'm sure everybody had the idea, but I was the only one that actually did it.
Yeah, everyone has ideas, but it's about execution, and you took that risk, and it seems to be paying off.
Look, I think I take it day by day. I'm extremely grateful and that it's going well, but it was a really hard time to get to this point, and now at this point I'm just going to keep going. But there's definitely times over the last couple of years it's like, oh my god, what am I doing? This is insane. But thankfully now this year, obviously we got investment before Christmas, on Christmas Eve, which was the best Christmas present ever. And this year now it's just been fantastic, just the progression that we're doing and the plans we've got. I'm really looking forward to it now.
Good. So you mentioned two things there. Number one is you said it was very hard. Can you give me a bit more information on that? Like, what were the challenges that you faced?
Well, the thing about having like an alcohol company, or even maybe it was the name or all of it, was like you've got so much eyes on you. Like, it's so public. So in my head I was thinking, my god, even if I fail, I can't even fail in peace. Like, it's going to be so public. There was just a lot of pressure on to make it happen, and obviously with the pandemic, look, I know I need to stop talking about it, but the pandemic experience, like many other people, was absolutely horrific. Like, at the time when we had launched our company, there were, I think, 12 gins at the same time. Ireland was tiny, the market was saturated, and I had that attitude. It was like, well, look, if Ireland's not going to support us the way we need to be, we need to go overseas. So, like, we spent a lot of time, money, planes, hotels, knocking on doors, pitching, getting contracts, going overseas to make it work. And then, because nobody knew how the disease was transmitting, within like 72 hours, every order that we had overseas was stopped. And I remember waking up going, oh my god, I don't have a business. I have no money coming in. Like, what am I going to do? And that was a real shock to the system. And then, thank God, we came up with the cocktail boxes. We just came up with new ideas all the time, and I just kept on saying to the team, like, just imagine it's not happening, and just imagine every day we're getting up and we've got a job to do. And then I went off to the Caribbean. I had my COVID over there, which was the best thing for me and the business, I believe, because I was in a better headspace. I just kept on going, and I feel that just kept me going, which kept the business going.
Very good. So, it's the hard times are what makes us too, and you just said it there. It's just like you kept generating ideas, and I feel like a lot of the time some people, they get stuck. So how do you apply that mindset of like keep reinventing? What gives you that spirit or that ability that some people might not have?
Oh, multiple things. I think practicing gratitude is a huge one for me. Plant medicine is definitely my go-to. Meditating, grounding myself. Like, there's certain things that you've got to work at yourself in order for anything else to happen. So I think at the end of the day, my faith was always stronger than my fear. So, like, even though there was definitely days of pure panic, it was overwhelming. I still always like, come on, like, this is what you've always wanted. You've got to see it through. And that was it. You just got to keep going.
Good. And you mentioned plant medicine. Can you tell me a bit more?
Yeah, I'm a big believer in plant medicine, ayahuasca. I know obviously you're a fellow believer. Magic mushrooms, rapi, kambo, any of the good stuff. I believe that any inner work that you can do in yourself is for the greater cause and the greater good. It's just a journey.
They're powerful medicines, and they're, for me, it's like they're great teachers. When I ask them a question, I'll always get an answer. And could you give me an insight into, like, say, the times that you've had challenges where you've went to the plants and explored?
Yeah, of course. Like even during like the pandemic, you know, people are ringing you going, "What's the plan? What are we doing?" And as a CEO and founder, like it's my responsibility to come up with ideas to keep this business going. I remember sitting with my whiteboard, I would just like dotted it, just like nothing would be coming from it. I'm like, what am I going to do? Another week would pass. And like, sure, again, panic. Yeah, and I would take some magic mushrooms. I would ask the plant for whatever to release any block that I have and to open any creative tunnels that I have that in order for me to continue on this process. And it's never failed me.
Mm-hmm. So I would love to hear more about, you know, if you can give the listeners an insight too, because I know there's a lot of fear around plant medicine and psychedelics, you know, just by, you know, mainstream, etc. But like, what would a typical journey look like for you, and how would you prepare yourself to, you know, go through an experience?
So I'm laughing you say prepare yourself, because I don't think you can ever prepare yourself. I read every book, I listened to every podcast, I googled, I researched. My God, like I felt I could be a shaman by the time I went down. There's always fear, but like with fear, there's, I don't know, there's positive, like there's black, there's white, hate, love, you know, there's always that way. It's just how you get into mindset. And like every journey is a process, and some of it can be scary. And people say to me, God, I had a really bad trip. There's no such thing as a bad trip. Every trip is a process that you're meant to go through in order for you to release, in order for you to become your higher vibrations, your higher self. And I think once people get out of their heads, I think that's probably it. Like when I started doing the plant medicine, I was doing an awful lot of work on myself. Like I needed to work on myself because I was completely broken.
Can you tell me a bit about that? Like when you say like what you were completely broken, what did a broken Laura look like?
Well, like everyone, we all get trauma. Something happens to all of us. We never ask for it, but we get it, and it's up to us. It's our responsibility to heal. But until sometimes you even get your head around what actually has happened, you go into self-destruct. You hate yourself. Like you drink, you party, you abuse yourself, you hate yourself. Like you don't feel any self-worth. And until that point of realization, or like, oh my God, what are you doing to yourself? Sometimes you're too deep, too far in. So for me, I was going to start my company. I was like taking sleeping tablets and Xanax, and like everything was just trying to keep me going, just because I had this business that I was launching and I had to keep going. But I felt absolutely nothing. I mean, like absolutely nothing. Like one of my friends had died. Didn't cry. One of my best friends got engaged. Like I'm delighted for her, but just I couldn't feel anything. I just was like, I'm dead inside. And I remember thinking, right, this is not how I am going to continue living my life.
Was this just at the launch of the company?
Well, it all comes to head. I think at that point, you know, I think everything was just coming to head at that time. At that point, I'd moved home. I hadn't lived at home for a long time. I'd set up my business. I'd left my career, which was like solid. You know, there was just loads of things and loads of emotions. And then something clicked. I don't know what it was, but it did. And I made a decision then to decide, like, what are you doing in life? Are you going to be a victim or are you going to be a survivor? Which one are you going to be?
What was it that you were feeling as a victim? Not that you were saying, like, what was the challenges that you faced that were making you decide, am I going to be a victim or am I going to be a hero? Like
living. Like that's what it was. It was solely down to like, are you going to continue living this life, or are you going to let the devil, like the evilness, completely just rot you away? And like that's kind of where I think a lot of people are, like this. And it just got to a point then where I was going on my journey, and I met Jerry Hussey. I talk about him a lot. Like I feel that man, I owe him my life. And then I did counselling, I did all the podcasts, listened to everything. I went into it, and then eventually, I don't know where Ayahuasca came from. I don't even know who told me about it.
So this was all before you had done plant medicine?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And the thing that I always think about, you're asked about how you prepare yourself for Aya. as I said, I did all this work. I remember going down and when they ask you, like, why are you here? I'm like, you know what? I've done so much work on myself. Like, I've done all the counselling. I feel I'm in a really good headspace. And I remember one of the shamans smiling at me. Didn't say anything, just smiled. And I remember afterwards going, that's why you smile, because Aya doesn't make you think, it makes you feel. And it's just you and your feelings. So you don't have time to think about being brainwashed. Or I'm not saying counselling or anything like that is brainwashing, but you're trying to tell yourself that everything's going to be okay. Where Aya just makes you feel it, you sit with it, you release it, you forgive it, you accept it, and then you move on.
And can you tell me about your first Aya experience?
God, it was terrible. It really was. It was one of the most horrific experiences of my life. I remember sitting around looking at people around me, and they were having the best time. They were up dancing and singing, and I was down on all fours, purging, crying. And I remember like begging my God, like, to make this stop. I was like, please, please. And one of the shamans came over and was like, don't you ask your God to make this stop, and thank Ayahuasca or Mother Nature every time you purge. Thank her for cleansing your soul. And I remember being so taken back that she had said that. But again, it changed your mindset. Your mindset. You instantly go, every time you purge, you're like, oh, thank you so much. Thank you for cleansing me. Yeah. Like the feeling sorry for yourself. Oh, please make this stop. That goes out the window. You want more.
Yeah, yeah.
So, like I was shouting Spanish. I don't speak Spanish. Like,
that's when they say you're like Icarus or channeling, or just it's all coming through you.
Yeah, I was shouting away in Spanish. I was like, I don't speak Spanish, so that was quite interesting. It was really scary. It was dark, but again, I remember saying to them, I was like, I had a really bad trip. Oh, I think I actually remember one of the time too, I kept on saying, I am starving. Like I just wouldn't let rip. And eventually, hours later, they gave me like a banana or a sandwich, which I never touched. But they actually said to me the next day that it wasn't that I was physically hungry. It was I was like unnourished of love. It was my inner child she was starving.
Yeah.
And that was like a real like, oh my goodness, that was quite intense. So
I know what that feels like too, because on my first experience too, like I asked for healing on my inner child, and holy shit, the love that I felt was incredible. I got this feeling go through my body. It was like I was being held by ayahuasca. Like it was amazing, you know. But it can be also very dark. You know, I met a demon, which scared the shit out of me.
Me too.
So you met a demon as well?
Yeah, a few.
What was that like?
As much as I was scared, they were saying to me that I was never alone. So as much as I was absolutely petrified of these demons, it was kind of, again, evil, good, or being scared, being comforted. It's trying to get the balance. And the thing about when I do ayahuasca, it's like I can see the whole way around my eye, or like, you know, it's like you don't just have one vision, it's all over. And sometimes you can see that little bit of darkness, then you can see the light, and you're trying to go one way, you might be going the other, but and then you're just like, just breathe and just trust the process of wherever this is meant to try and bring you. But with the inner child, I didn't really pay attention to her at all. And I remember like doing the ayahuasca, very much going, as an adult, I forgave a lot of things in my past, and a lot of people, even though they didn't deserve it or they didn't ask for it, I forgive them for me to have inner peace. And I kept getting this kick in my stomach, and I was like, what is that? And then it was months later that I realized I rang my shaman. I was bawling, crying, and just woke up one morning, and I was like, oh my God, I know what it is. I was like, it's my wee Laura. She's angry. She doesn't forgive yet. So they said, this is great, Laura. I want you to go buy a doll. And I was like, sorry, what? You know? And he was like, I want you to go buy a doll. So into Derry, I got dressed like a mum too. I remember getting like putting on a dress and a long coat, which I never wear it like that. And going in and being embarrassed being in the Toys R Us store or Smith's, whatever one is there. And walking up and down the aisle going, what am I looking for? Why am I here? And then eventually I saw her. And I got this doll and I put her down. And I remember like as soon as I took her, like I gave her like a little hug. And I put her into the car. I put the seatbelt on, and I cried the whole way home. And then I got home and I ran my sharp, and I said, "Right, got her. What do we do now?" And he goes, "Meet little Laura." And he goes, "I need you to tell her everything that you've ever needed to hear as a child. Whatever it is, from your parents to your siblings to your family to your teachers, whatever it is, what feels has affected you in your life. It could be in your head, you might not think it's any way important, but it is to her." So I literally did that. Went in, put on my pajamas, watched 2 Disney cartoons, cried my heart out, went to bed, woke up in the morning, kissed her in the forehead, and that was it. So your inner child is the most important person in your life.
So what was life like for little Laura?
Do you know what? I had a great family and childhood. My thing was, I was young. I was the youngest born by years. So by the time I was like around 5, they were probably like in their early 20s and they had their own lives. And it wasn't like they were like, get away, but I was constantly told to go away, which I didn't realize that was a thing until I started doing ayahuasca, and that's what came up for me. Just been constantly told to go away. Which, like, I talked to my brothers, sisters, and my dad about it now, and of course, like, they get upset about it. I was like, I'm not trying to upset you.
Yeah.
I'm just telling you this has happened, but it's all okay. Like, we all turned out great. Like, I know that I was loved. And then my mom got sick when I was 12, and that was, like, she was sick my teenage years, and that was really tough. But you just get on with it. I think us Irish, you just, like, plow on, and then she died then when I was 20, so that all came up then eventually too. But I only wish I did when I was 19. Shaker's like, death, my God, welcome it. It's just another dream. We'll see all our loved ones again. Doesn't scare me at all anymore.
Yeah, like, we sometimes look at death as such a bad thing, you know. When I actually see death, it's being reborn, going back to where we came from, or going back closer to source, you know. Well,
I died twice during Bufa.
Can you tell me a bit more about Bufa? Like, what Bufa is?
So Bufa is a gland of the desert toad. So when they put it in, it's like a glass pipe, and you inhale it. And when you inhale it, it's kind of like you knock out, but you can actually feel your lungs like dropping, like the air leaving. And it's like you stop breathing, but then your ream opens up, that you're just like going through like centuries and ancestors and like just everything. This table is something, like a tree is something, a plant is, you know, everything becomes energy, which we are. And then I came back and I could actually feel my lungs fill up. I went through the tunnel of birth. I was like reborn, and I sat up and I was like, oh my God. And it was like seeing the world for the first time. It was like seeing grass for the first time. It was like seeing a tree. Just unbelievably gratitude. But the downside of all this is you do go, what is it all about? What are we doing?
I know.
You know, I own an alcohol company, which I love, I'm proud of. I work on it every day. I love it. But I'm like, who am I doing it for? I could die tomorrow. I'll just be remembered. Oh, she was, you know, she was a nice girl. She set up a business. Next generation, I'm like, oh yeah, I remember her. Or then you just forgotten. That's it. You're gone.
So, like, you say, what are we doing it all for? And you know what? I still question that myself now. And it's just like, I do enjoy being creative, you know, but sometimes we have to go through them processes where we're like doing stuff to give us, or maybe to wake us up, you know?
Yeah. Well, again, like I went through it, like the negative of it. Like when I came out of Bufa, I was like, oh my God, it's all man-made. It's all made up. Religion is made up. The government's made up. The rules were made up.
Yeah.
Like, why do we have different languages? Why do we have different currencies? Why do we have, you know, like I ran into this spiral of like, oh my goodness, this is insane. Like, this was not what we were put on earth for. And you do go down a bit of a spiral. And I had a hate for the Catholic Church after doing which I was raised a Christian, and I would have practiced it. Where now I've come through that again, but I think you have to prepare yourself for doing Aya. Is you will question everything about your life and society, and it's not for the weak.
I totally agree. Like when I done ayahuasca, everything was just like, what the hell? Like, what the hell is going on here? I didn't realize that I had been so programmed by society, like how I was living under control by, you know, governments and media and how they influence our lives. And we don't even, a lot of us are like, yeah, but we don't actually know to what extent. But Aya just blew the lid off that.
Yeah. And like, me. And I don't, like, obviously Aya's been going for thousands of years, but I believe this generation is going to change that. I do believe people are going to not rebel as such, like it's not a war or anything like that, but like people always say to me, if you had one wish in the world, what would it be? And people automatically think it's going to be like success, but like I just want the whole world to do ayahuasca. Like, oh my god, go set yourself free. Like, I think even the mind, which is very confusing, is when they say to you, oh, well, that's probably not your trauma, it's probably your granny's. And you're like, sorry, what? And they're like, oh, well, it goes down your bloodline. Yeah. And then you're like, oh my gosh, I'm not even doing it for one. I'm doing it for everybody. And that's pretty exhausting in itself.
Yeah, because if you go to say that to people, they're like, what? I know. You know, but...
Well, and the thing too is, like, I can talk to certain people, and there are certain people that I can't. And that's okay. And if people are open to it, they'll come and question you about it, and then they'll do their own journey. And then there's other people who just think I'm mad, and that's all right too.
Sometimes it's good being mad.
Well, like I always say, normal is boring.
What is normal? You know. It's what I think. Like, is when you do these, you know, psychedelics, I think they give you access to a new level of consciousness. Yeah. And you know, and when you access that level, it's hard to go back, but it's also hard to bring people to that level. They have to get there themselves. So like explaining it can be challenging. And
a lot of it too is I find it hard to explain. You know, like I'm like, well, this happened, but trying to put it into words, I really struggle to do it. And no one has the same experience. Like, you know, you're all sitting there and you're like, oh my god, look at that color. And then they're like, well, what color? You know, I'm seeing something else here, and I'm like, what? And then I'm like, okay, that's you doing your journey. So I think it's you can only do as much as you can. Like, my thing is, people can contact me anytime they want if they want to talk about it. I feel it's part of my journey. There's a reason I'm put on this earth, is to talk about plant medicine. And the amount of people who contacted me and they have gone to do it and they've changed their life, it's been one of the most rewarding things that I've ever experienced, to be in their journey, to see what they've done and how they've come out the other end. And that is pretty amazing.
That's actually really, really nice to hear, you know, because I feel the same when I came out of the jungle. It's like, I have to talk about this medicine. Like, people need to be aware, you know, because it's like we've gone down the direction of like chemicals and tablets, and like they're not natural, they're not like organic substances that are coming from the earth. These plants are just growing naturally, you know. I
know, but Ryan, again, society is told that what we're doing is wrong, that we're out getting high.
I'm definitely with you. I feel like there's a new wave, a new generation coming along with the younger us, you know, us ones talking, making the change, you know. So I'm definitely on that with you.
Yeah, for sure. And like, my thing is, I do have a conflict, you know. I'm talking about this, and then I'm talking, I own an alcohol company, but I have to remind myself that people aren't born alcoholics or drug addicts or gamblers, whatever it is. Something happens in their life that they're trying to escape, and that like they're numbing the pain. But when you do it with respect, as everything in life, you can enjoy it. But it's just those people, like when it's disrespected, that's where the trouble is.
I agree. You know what? I was one of them. I was never an alcoholic, but I drank just way too much, you know, and there was cocaine. It was just killing my body, you know. But now, after doing work, you know, and doing a lot of work.
Loving yourself. Do you love yourself?
Of course I love myself. Yeah, you know, exactly. We have to love ourselves.
Absolutely.
And when you get to that place of loving yourself, you only have love for every single other person, no matter how bad or how good they are. You love them.
Absolutely. Like, you just want the best for them. And my thing is, so like, as much as I do the plant medicine, I always go back to this book called The Magic. It's like a sister book of The Secret. I'm reading it now. I read it twice a year, every year. Just like to go back and do it. But it's all about gratitude. And the more, like, giving those people who, you know, need a little bit of love, you give them a bit of fairy dust and you wish them well. But the more gratitude that you do the more that you feel, your vibration is higher because you feel it in your heart. It's like you're just constantly in love. Like the first thing I do in the morning is when I open my eyes, the first thing is I put my hand on my heart and I thank God that I am alive. And I've been doing that for a couple of years. Put my other hand on my chest and go, thank you for my lungs. Then I step, I'm like, thank you. I can walk to my toilet with running water, that I have toothbrush, I used to go through it all the things that I'm grateful for, because you can get totally caught up in all the negative, but we are so unbelievably blessed.
We are.
But like sometimes people are just so caught up in something negative that they don't even understand how blessed they are. And I think that's like everybody needs to read that book.
Do you know, you've mentioned gratitude a few times, and gratitude is something so close to my heart too. Can you tell me a little bit about like your practice? I know you mentioned like you get up, what else do you do, or how else do you express gratitude for people who don't do that, can maybe integrate it to their own lives?
I talk about this all the time, but say even if there are roadworks, people normally are going mental. My thing is, I'm like, thank you so much for keeping or getting our roads more safe. Or I'm like, thank you for holding me back those 3 minutes, because it means I'm not going to go get that coffee that I probably shouldn't have. Or whatever it is, or like, thank you that I'm not meant to be 3 minutes ahead of where I'm meant to be. Maybe I'm meant to be in a crash. So like, I just change it to a positive. Or when I'm on the plane, I thank the pilot and I thank the air hostess and I thank the people who get my luggage. And when I'm getting off the plane, I'll always just sprinkle a little dust across everybody in the airport to say thank you for letting me get home safe and I've got my luggage. And like, it's silly, like, well, it's not silly, maybe it is silly, but it makes me feel great that I let those people have no idea that I'm giving them fairy dust, but I'm giving them some gratitude dust.
Good. No, I think that is so important, even because a lot of us can get caught up in the roadworks, beeping the horns and get angry. Like, you know, what's the big deal? What are you in a rush for?
You are where you're meant to be. I think that's really important. I think another thing too is knowing when you check into a hotel, ask that, like, what's that person's name? Ryan, thanks so much for checking me in. Like, someone is your waitress or whatever, what's their name? Call them a name. See them as a person. Thank them for their service. I think the smallest little things, and you can get into a routine of it, and then I don't know, to me it's programmed in me now that I probably say thank you probably 10,000 times a day. I'm just constantly saying it all the time. In my head, no matter what I'm doing. And again, like, once I go to bed at night, I go through my gratitude list, and by the time I'm probably near finished that, I'm asleep. So
that's amazing. I know, I'm with you on that, and I always tell people, like, start with gratitude. Just 10 things in the morning, and don't even write the same things. 10 new things. Thankful for the breath, thankful for this pen, this ink. Like, you can find the depth of gratitude is it's infinite.
Yeah, for sure. Like, even like, thank you for this pizza. Well, thank you for the delivery man who probably drove during the night. So thank you for the people in the warehouse. Thank you from the farmers. Thank you for the seeds. Thank you for the rain.
Yes.
And you can go through it all. But like, you just, if you go into that, allow yourself to go down it. You can't help but smell and go, God is great.
So you mentioned God there like twice. So I'm curious, what is God to you? You know, what is your relationship? Who is God?
It's only in the last couple of years, like, God to me is the higher affinity, and to me it's Mother Nature, it's Pachamama, it's the rain, it's the universe. There's something more in it, and once you start believing in it, it's pretty magical.
Oh, it's fucking amazing.
Yeah, but you do have to get there.
Oh, like, I did not believe in God for years. I was like, what the fuck, that's not real. But whenever you harness the power of God, the relationship, and I relate to them as the infinite creator. They're not a he, they're not a she, they're just everything.
It's an energy.
But I also feel like we are God. You're a God and I'm a God. God is existing through us. So like, the Catholic Church has led us to believe that God is actually separate. Yeah. But nothing is actually separate at all. Of course it's not. Everything's connected, so therefore...
And everyone is praying to this God. Like, it's just other people. It's, again, we're programmed into believing a certain way, but once it's kind of like releases that for you, there's no going back.
No, definitely not. And the mushrooms too.
Yeah, like, I'm extremely grateful for all of it, to be honest. Like, I didn't know any of it a couple of years ago. And then the more I was like, like the most like successful men and women in this world, when you now hear that that's what they've been doing for years, I'm like, was this a secret club that like no one knew about?
Yeah, isn't that strange? You know, why do you think that you know the really successful people are, you know, it's kind of kept low key?
Well, I don't know if it's a case of greed that they're trying to keep it for themselves, but the whole point of ayahuasca is the opposite of that. We have access now to podcasts and social media. As much as it's a bane of my life, it's also, I'm very grateful for it, that people, like, we're talking about this now, that people are listening to it. And like the amount of young people that are contacting me to go do ayahuasca who are like 18, 19, 20. And you know, I remember one of the guys, I was thinking, and this was wrong, I was like, what trauma would you have at your age? You know? And then I was like, hold on here, like that guy could have had whatever. And I was like, there is no age in it. Like there's no age limit, as long as, I think, obviously, if you're older. Now there's been plenty of people in their 70s, 60s in my circle, and I'm like, really, should you be doing this? But you know, if they're signed off, they're healthy, then good for them. I'm delighted for them.
Yeah.
It's great.
But funnily, like when I had done my experiences, there was people in their 50s too. And I was so impressed, you know, and they stuck it out a long time.
The last two circles I've been at, it was the majority were men, and I remember thinking, fair dues to you, because like Irish men are like, don't talk about their feelings, you know, big boys don't cry, you know, they're not meant to have this. Where I'm just like, I have fair dues to you that you're releasing this trauma to make your life better, to make your children's life better. You know, I applaud every one of that, and I love sitting in those circles. Like, I just want to hug. Well, I go over and hug them all anyway. I'm like, well done.
They're powerful.
Yeah, it's incredible.
So powerful.
I know. And you know what? Everybody's going through something. You know, no one's trauma is any worse or less than whoever's going through it. No one's grief is any worse or less. Whatever someone's feelings, their feelings. And like, that's the whole thing, that there's no judgment. It's acceptance, and at the end of it, it's just love. Like, love is the answer to absolutely everything.
Oh, love is the only thing that is real.
I know.
Everything else is just phony, you know. Like, fear is not even real. Like, for me, like, fear and love are one spectrum, and fear is on one side, but you can call it love as well. So you can. So it's just like that fear that you're experiencing, you can just call it love, and you see it as a way to love even deeper, you know. And that's what gives me real peace, because we can go through shit at the time, you know, sometimes, but it's just like, I'm always like, what is this teaching me, you know, and how can I love more, you know? And if everyone could do that, Laura.
I know, sure, we'll be a good place.
Yeah.
Well, like, I think we're on to a good start. Like, my thing is, like, I try to be positive every single day, but like, even positive people get negative thoughts, but it's all about controlling them. But like, I went away on holidays last year with one of my best friends, and we hadn't been away together in years. So I was like, if you learn something about me, and he goes, you nap a lot. And then he goes, but it is exhausting being positive all the time. And I was like, it is, yeah, 100%. But you know, sometimes you just need a little nap, but I'd rather have a little nap and be positive than but don't get me wrong, there's days where I'm like, why am I bothering when people are being negative to me? But I always think good's gonna outpower the bad, no matter what. For
sure. And it's just perspective. You know, one person's negative can be another person's positive.
Absolutely, but sure, like, it's everyone's perspective is theirs. Like, I always think to say, when someone tells a story, like, your version, my version, and like whoever, like, we have all different versions, because none of it's true, because it's a past that doesn't matter. And then you're struggling with that too. You're like, if it doesn't matter, why does it hurt? And then it's like, if it doesn't hurt, should, you know, you can question it all constantly, get you.
So it's really good to talk to you in this depth, you know. Like, we only met a few weeks ago. When I say met, we spoke online, but we instantly connected. And I think we connected because I think we talk from the soul perspective. You know, we're connected to our soul. Yeah. Were you that person before? You weren't that person before you started Muff Liquor? Or were you? Or where were you? Where did that soul aspect or connect to love come in? And I want to know how that then enhanced you moving forward with the company. I think I always had it. Well, no, I wasn't even aware that I had it. Like, one of my best friends, she found an old letter that I had wrote her when she was doing her first year university, so she was 17. And my message was, just breathe. No matter what, you're going to get through this. I love you always, whatever it was. And she sent me a message going, God, you've always been like this.
And I was like, what do you mean by that? And she goes, just like, doesn't matter. Like, life is going to be okay. Positive person. But I do feel this inner, the healing and the confidence and the power is only since doing the plant medicine and deciding that every day is going to be the best day, no matter what. Mm-hmm. So I just think it's just enhancing. But I think anybody can start it no matter what at any time. You just have to be open-minded and open-hearted. Mm. The rest is, it will take over.
Yeah, and to not feel fear.
Well, I will give you what you want, not what you need. Mm-hmm. And I think that's really important. I remember going down, giving her a list of what I wanted. It was like a shopping list. I was like, I want this, I want this, I want this. She goes like, oh my God, I only wish I could have that now. I'm like, so sorry.
Yeah, no.
I'm so sorry for disrespecting you in that way.
I know you have to be prepared, but that's your opportunity too, to overcome them challenges, them fears that you have. And
you know what? A lot of it is, it's a feeling of a feeling of a feeling of a feeling. Like everything has a trigger. Like my thing is, like now since doing when I meet people, I want to know their life story. Mm-hmm. I want to know why they are that way. Why do people act out that way? Why do people think they can treat people that way? Why do people like drink or whatever it is? I want to know what it is. And without a doubt, when people actually open up to tell you, it's because they're hurting. Mm-hmm. Like people don't wake up every morning, but you know what, I'm going to ruin someone's life today. They don't do that. Happy people don't do that. Kind people don't do that. So I think that is definitely when people are acting out, instead of going, jeez, whatever it is, would they piss off, whatever it is, ask them what is going on with you. Mm-hmm. Are you okay? And most of the time, like they might not tell you. Maybe you're not the right person that they talk to, but again, it does kind of see that they're seen. I think a lot of people don't get to feel like they're not seen. Mm.
It takes bravery too to want to do the work, even if it's not like psychedelics, to actually, you know, go to therapy or whatever. Circling so powerful, you know. Why is that, do you think, Laura?
Sometimes it's head in the sand too. Sometimes it's going to be an awkward conversation. Sometimes it's going to be upsetting somebody. A lot of people, like I always find with grief, like before now, like I look at death so differently now. But like, I would be dying to talk about somebody who had passed away, but I would never want to tick them up in case I upset the person that I was with. But then I found out that person, all they want to do is talk about them. Mm-hmm. So like we have not, like I think we naturally try to protect each other and we try and protect ourselves. And we're programmed to be like, come on, get on with it. Like we're not taught to talk about our feelings, I don't think. And then there's always a fine line of like talking about your feelings. Mm-hmm. It's all about getting like a bit too muddled down on it. But I do think that's changing. I feel that the next generation is so much more open to it, and I do think it's going to change a lot of ways. And I think it changes people's relationships too. Like I know like families where their fathers, people can only love as much as they're loved. And that is something that I have only really realised. I'm like, have you ever asked what kind of like life your parents have? What kind of relationship did they have with their grandparents, your grandparents? What kind of childhood did they have? Were they happy? Were they loved? Were they supported? What happened when... Did they have a child outside wedlock? Did they get kicked out? Whatever drama. Like, there's always something. Like, people just think their parents or that these two people just gave them life, that they had no life beforehand. And when you actually sit down and ask, it's a lot of time we're like, I now understand why you're like that. And then you give them that love that they don't know, they've never had before. And like, again, we know we've had this conversation, love is the answer. Mm-hmm. And then that person, then you break the cycle and then you change it for your child. And then your child then will hopefully reap the rewards.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm with you on that, very much so, you know. And I think when we learn to have the conversations that we don't want to have, that's when we can break down the walls and welcome in more love. I
do think though, Aya helps that.
Definitely.
I think when you do it, you're just like, do you know what? It's okay to talk about this because it's just, you know, I'm okay with it now, but it's like just addressing, by the way, that was something that really bothered me, but I'm okay with it now. You know, a lot of the times, like I would have said something that would have happened, and like my sister, like I love her, like she would cry about my past or my past. I'm like, no, I'm okay. Like I don't want you upset, but she's like, you know. It's not, how would you even know what was going on? Again, you're a child.
The people around you, your parents, brothers, sisters, whoever raised you, you know, that you don't feel they loved you, they are doing their best. Their absolute best.
Oh my God, yeah, of course. Like everyone's doing their very best.
Yeah, like, and when, you know, I looked at my own parents and I seen the childhoods that they had, or the upbringings and stuff like that, and I'm like, I fucking love them. They were doing the best that they could, even though as me as a kid felt there was things that I wanted, you know, but that was just my challenge, you know, and I'm so fucking grateful for that, because that has made me who I am today, and I love them for it, you know. But I know that there's people out there and they have messaged me, it's like, how do you forgive someone? And it's like, how do you forgive someone, Laura, you know?
But you have to forgive, but it's not necessarily for them, it's for yourself. Like, forgiveness is inner peace. A lot of people don't deserve forgiveness. And I always think, I took it from Tupac, like, I want them to eat is not at my table, but I don't want them to starve either.
Yes.
But I do that so I can go to bed with a pure heart at night, knowing that I have done everything in my power to be a good human being and to serve, or to spread as much love in this world, that I can sleep at night knowing the next morning I'm going to wake up and continue on my day. And
your love is spreading into more art, you're exploring other business, or I would say I like to call things like this art. You know, can you tell me more about your art?
My passion project.
Yes.
Yeah. So last year I went on a wellness retreat in Spain again. Jerry Hussey and his incredible wife Miriam. And when I was there, I was then doing one of my meditations. And when I came out of a meditation, I sat up and I was like, I'm going to write a child's book. And I said it out loud, that everyone in the room kind of looked around, and I was like, did I say that out loud? And I was like, I did say that. And then in my head, I was like, what is it that I'm trying to get across here? And it's basically just a little book on affirmations. There's nothing necessary to it, but it's extremely sweet. But there was multiple angles to it. That it's called You're a Little Star, and that the stars all come in different shapes, us humans, and we all shine at different times. And maybe even when you can't see them, they're still there. So it was more for the child, and it's a bonding book between parents. And again, it was like, if parents, I only started doing my affirmations when I was 33. So I was like, imagine if you get children doing the affirmations in the morning. And like, I know people are doing that now, but it's for the adult, whoever's reading the book says their affirmations. So it's like they're saying it not only to the child, but they're saying it for themselves, and then the child says it back. And it's just something I really want to do. I absolutely love it. I'm super, super proud of it. And hopefully it will be published next year.
That's amazing.
And even if it's not, I've finished it. I've done it.
I know. But even like doing something like that, what do you think, so for parents, like, what will that give their kids? Maybe that if they didn't have, how will their kid become, you know, with the likes of this book? How do you see that? Well,
like, say a lot of parents, again, if they weren't told, I love you, you are brave, you are smart. If you weren't told that, as because your parents might have not have said it, you might struggle to say it to your child, even though you're dying to say it. And that's all your child really needs to hear. So the whole point of it is that your child hears these words. I'm not saying it will change their life, but I'm pretty sure it will definitely help. And it also helps that parent, if they're struggling with how they feel, that the book says it for them. All they have to do is say it out loud.
And it gives them an opportunity to break the cycle of maybe they weren't told that they were loved, or they weren't told that they were smart, or maybe they were told they were hated, you know?
Yeah, exactly. The complete opposites. It all comes with self-love. And yeah, like, I look in the mirror in the mornings and I'm like, I love you, and I'm so proud of you that you had found that strength to continue on, because bloody hell, that was hard.
So you love yourself?
Very much so.
Good. Because there's such an Irish like way of going,
you love yourself.
Oh, you love yourself. Like,
but if you don't love yourself, how can you love anyone else?
Exactly. But isn't that the likes of the people who say that, is there's something inside themselves that they're missing?
I hate. Do you know, like, even the last time I did a couple of weeks ago, and this woman kept laughing, and I don't know why it triggered me, but I wanted to get up and slap her. I literally was like, would you just piss off? Like, and I was like, why? And then I was like, Lord, I had to word with myself. I was like, come on, Lord, like, that woman is laughing. At least she's not crying. And then when she was up, then she started to cry, and then I instantly wanted to go over and hug her. I was like, I instantly wanted to look after her. And then again, I was like, that's not your place. Leave her be. And then she got up, started dancing, and I hated her again. And I was like, what is triggering? Like, what is going on in me that annoyed me? Is it a case of because I wasn't laughing, or a case that I wasn't up dancing? Was I jealous of her? You know, like that's just, I think a part of it is I've been off trail now.
No,
Sorry.
but it's like you were on a journey.
Yeah.
Yeah, so like maybe there was just things coming up in you in that time, you know, just learning you to overcome them triggers.
But again, I think it's the perception of people of how they are in their life. Some people are just it's the people by loving yourself. When some people just don't like themselves. So it's all getting back to your loving your inner child. It all comes down to forgiveness, acceptance, and release.
Yeah.
I know it sounds so simple.
You just have to be willing to take the first step. But when you love yourself, Laura,
Sure,
Jesus.
I know it's never ending. And the thing too is, like I've got a friend who has seen my journey, has been through the worst and the best of me. I know, and they've said recently, they're like, God, I'd love to be where you are right now. And I was like, we just start, like, do the journey. And they were like, but you're like 2.5 years straight. And I was like, 3 years of what? Like, that's all it is. That I could have, please God, another 50 years maybe on this planet. That I at least now that I know every morning when I wake up. And don't get me wrong, some other trauma will come. Something like there's going to be death. And as much as I always say death doesn't bother me now, I haven't lost, thank God, one of my nearest. But then, like, my mom used to always say to me, like, death is the punishment that we get for loving. And, like, we choose love every day. And we're only crying for ourselves because that person's at peace. And I'm like, but I'm crying for myself. I miss that person. And I think that's just part of it.
So I'm under the impression that we come here today, we're preparing ourselves all life today.
Well, I think we were preparing to reborn.
Fair.
So
yeah.
same.
Yes. But it's like we live in the fear of that, but it really gives you the opportunity, from my perception, is to experience birth and death, you know, a start and an end. Because for me, it's like our soul is infinite, you know, and there's no time, you know, but we are so caught up in this reality, and that is, I'm so grateful for that, because that gives you the opportunity to forget everything you've ever known, to remember everything that you are, you know. Yeah. But getting there is like, you know, what we're talking about, and the reason I'm talking about it is because I want more people to be aware of, like, how they can get to this place in their lives where they can feel free and they can feel love.
Yeah.
You know? So, like, it's amazing to hear someone like you nearby, you know, local, who is explored this and is willing to talk about this, you know, because there isn't that many. Some can be, you know.
It's a bit of a taboo, or they're worried about society. And don't get me wrong, when you contacted me, I was like, I don't know if I should be doing that. Like, will the perception of me be different? Will it damage my business? And then I was like, what are you doing? Like, you are in such a better headspace, and physically and mentally, I'm in the highest vibration I have ever been. That, you know, I need to tell people this. It helps with my business. My business is being successful due to my mindset, and my mindset's healthy because I did the work, and I helped that. So there's nothing wrong with it. It's
helped you a lot, Laura. Your business is flying.
Day to day, thank God. It is. Hopefully we're building our distillery now in Muff. We're in planning permission now, so manifesting that was all going to go through. Yeah, I love it. Even on the bad days, I bloody love it. I'm extremely proud of myself and the team and how we've got here, and we'll do good with it. I think that's the best. I know that I'm going to do good. The abundance that I get, I know that I'm going to give that back tenfold. And that's something I'm pretty proud of.
You seem to have, so you started in Ireland, then you went to the UK, and then, is it Australia?
Yeah, well, Bermuda and Italy and Germany and Dubai, Japan, and then Australia's been our big one now. That's where we're currently at, so I'm based there as such. I'm going out now in 2 weeks' time. And then we'll do the distillery we'll get ready then and hopefully aim for the States. And then we'll see then.
And you've met some people along the way, investors.
I have. Very, very blessed and extremely grateful for Russell Crowe. Like I tell him all the time, like I did some shrooms a couple of weeks ago just on my own, just needed to turn off my phone, locked. I just was like, I need to be on my own. Do you ever get that point where you feel you're going to cry just at everything? And I was like, what's sitting here? What is it? You don't have time for this emotion, so get rid of it. And I just got this overwhelming. I was out in the garden. I was like, I am so grateful for that man for giving me this opportunity and believing in me and the business and bringing in his friends. But he's letting me live in his place in Sydney. He's so unbelievably kind. So I messaged him. I was like, so grateful. I appreciate you so much. I love you so much. He's just like whatever. But I tell him all the time how grateful I am. And the first time I arrived in Sydney, he lives near the Royal Botanical Gardens, and those trees in Sydney are just mind blowing. I love a tree. I love a full moon. I'm just one of those. I'm happy with them. I started crying. Such a gratitude. They came back and they were like, "What's wrong with me?" And I was like, "I'm so happy. I'm so happy. I'm so grateful." So yeah, if I'm not crying with tears of fear, I'm crying with gratitude. So
I hear you. I have taken them before, and then I've burst into tears of gratitude. I was like, why the fuck am I crying? But I'm can't laugh, but it just tears are flowing out of me.
I remember I did them once with one of my best friends, and we were chatting away. Next thing, we just knew you get the giggles, crying with laughter. Next thing, I went, I think I'm gonna cry. And she was like, that's okay. And then tears started, just sobbing. But my thing is when I'm sitting with anybody is there's no judgment. Whatever person's going through their process, let them be. If they're laughing, let them laugh. If they're crying, let them cry. If they need to roll down the floor, let them run around the floor. I think that's probably one of the most important things is to be aware of it, because if you become paranoid or you try and turn someone, it could go the opposite way. Thankfully that's never happened to me now, but yeah, you just gotta let it out.
Yeah. No, you're doing an amazing job. You're obviously putting in the work though with with Muff Liquor, and how have you got involved in this network of the likes of Russell Crowe and to bring them on board? Tell me more.
No, sorry, what was the question?
Just you're working hard.
Yeah.
And it's amazing to see that. But through that process, what is the steps that has got you to bringing on people like that?
Hustling, I think, is probably the biggest thing, and pure determination. From day dot I have such a high standard of myself, and I want this to be so successful. I'm like, why do I want to be successful? Is that my ego talking, or I go through this question of it all the time. And my thing is, I don't want to be famous. I have no interest in it. I'm quite a private person, but I want to be successful. And with the thing with the business, everything about it, I am a perfectionist. I want the best of the best. I need it to be it. And then the whole thing with Russell was in the 17th of October 2017, so I hadn't even launched my business yet. But I wrote down that Ed Sheeran was going to be my shareholder, and I said that Russell Crowe would do a tweet when I launched my business into Australia. And I did, there's loads of other things that have it, but just in regards to those two boys. So I went after them.
Had you even known these men?
No, never.
Even in their network?
Well, obviously I knew them from
yeah,
who
no,
they
but
were.
I mean, did you
never.
know anyone? So you just put it out to the universe?
Just wrote it down, and I was like, I'm going to get them. And then I end up hounding everybody in Ed Sheeran's networking, and then eventually I got a message back from one of them with his manager's email address. So went and spoke to them, and went back and forth, and then I messaged one of the last ones, look, the door's not ajarred, or no, the door's not closed, but it's ajarred. And I remember thinking, right, that's it, done. And then when I actually met that person who I thought gave me the message, I was like, I owe you the biggest thank you. So then I forgot all about him. And then Russell was filming in Ireland. Through my best friend's sister's girlfriend, Lorraine O'Reilly, who sings in Russell's band. I just said to her, I was like, please just give him this box, whatever. So she gave him the bottles. But I found out now, since when he opened the bottles, he actually sent a picture to Ed and was like, oh, look what I've got. But Ed had already sent him a picture, so they'd already knew about my product. And they were like, so I got a phone call then that Monday morning from them saying like, can you come down and meet Russell? Are you looking for investment? I was like, yes, I am. So down I went, and the rest is history. I just love him. I'm so grateful for him.
That's amazing, Laura. So you've really hustled. You know, it's really brought you, obviously, with the plants and being very spiritual, grateful for life, and it's bringing you abundance.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm very aware of it, and I'm very, very grateful. So I just believe like something good's going to come from all this, and I just believe that my journey with the healing is going to continue on. I just, at this point now, I just want to heal everybody, which obviously is not. I speak to a few people, they're like, that's not your responsibility, and I was like, I know, but if you could just give them this little bit, like, you never know what will happen. But no, I know I'll do something good when this is all over.
So what's next for Muff Liquor?
Oh goodness, please, that I get the plans for the distillery, and we're hoping to have that open next summer. And like that's gonna be pretty cool. Like I think that's gonna be great for tourism and like just for the area. So we'll have our shop there, we'll have our office there, we'll have a mini distillery, and then we'll hopefully have a tour where you can come and taste some of the products. I said I'm going back to Australia. Australia's been quite slow, but we just didn't have people on the ground. I'm only one person at the end of the day too. Like I have to remind myself, like what we've done with so little people is pretty incredible. But I'm one person, so I'm going to go and give it my all now for whatever, a couple of months, a year out in Australia, and who knows then, Ryan? I don't know. Who knows?
Who knows? So,
for the better.
So, like, give me a bit more insight to the actual like process of making the alcohol. Like, I'd love to know a little bit more. Like, where does it start, and to going on shelf? You know.
Oh my goodness. Well, obviously we distill our gin and vodka are the same base. So when people always say to me, "Oh, I don't like your gin," I don't like your vodka, but I like your gin. I'm like, well, it's actually the exact same potato base, except you add in the botanicals of our gin, which mixes a gin. At the moment, we're making it down in West Cork.
And you've won a lot of. It's not just any alcohol company. Like your website is littered with awards.
I know, it's been amazing. Yeah, we've won, and the most beautiful thing about it is it's blind tasting competitions. So it's not like they're seeing the name or anything like that, or they're knowing the stories. And I suppose the investors were only on board the last 6 months, so have they been even here? No, so we knew we won the current award before they came on. So yeah, like that's pretty amazing. Like it's probably one of the best things. But like I remember getting a silver once. And the man, I was like, congratulations. I was like, what? I was like, but we won gold I was like, but we've won gold the last 2 years. And he was like, he said, like, I've spoken to him since. He's like, I was like, oh my God, this woman. And I was like, and he goes, I'll just send you. And I was like, oh, don't bother. I was like, I will not be posting that anywhere. And he was like, what? I was like, do you ever remember who comes second? No. If you're not first, you're last.
So you would say you're a bit competitive then?
Do you know what? I always think I'm not, and then I realise how I'm very much I am, and I realise now back living with my dad there, he's so competitive. He's out playing golf on a Wednesday, and I know when he's won because he comes in telling me, and if he doesn't, he's quiet. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think being competitive is healthy. I think for an entrepreneur, you kind of need to be. And then again, I was obsessed with, not obsessed, wrong word. Like when I started out, like following all my competitors, like I don't look at them as my competitors at all anymore. I call them like acquaintances, and I understand how difficult and how hard they're working, that I want to see them succeed. Mm-hmm. Like I wish everybody wanted them well. There's nothing worse when you wake up one day and you hear somebody's gone under, because you don't know when that could be you. It could be you at any time. Mm-hmm. So I find that like quite sad. So as much as I'm competitive, I just stay in my own lane now, and I stay focused, and like I just don't listen to the white noise. I don't read comments anymore. Don't read any of the Instagram, like any whatever. Just stay away from it.
Do you ever face any challenges like that?
I think I used to at the beginning and stuff. Where like even at the weekend now, the only reason I know about it is because so many people told me. But fake news went out. And you're just like, oh, do you understand how difficult that is? And then it made me realize, like, we read the news all the time. Like, who actually says it's true? Because, like, the people that they're talking about most of the time don't even get a chance to say, actually, that's not. So, yeah, no, it's definitely, publicity is good and sometimes it's not. But you just have to take it on your stride and just let it be. I don't believe fighting fire with fire. Just throw water over it. Just let it go. Move on. You can't let it consume you. Otherwise, it just hurts you. You're hurting yourself more than anybody.
Yeah, no, it can be hard. You can get caught up in it, and
Of course you can.
that's the emotions of the human
Rage.
body. Yeah,
Rage. Yeah,
and then you just say things that you regret the next day.
Yeah. No, but I do think people have a responsibility for their own actions. And words are words. And when they're out there. You can delete them, surely, but people have seen them. It has an effect on people, and it can have an effect. Like that could have had a huge effect for all they would have known for even our planning permission or for my. And I said, like, you could ruin someone's business overnight. And I'm not saying like that dramatic, but I'm just saying people need to be held accountable for their actions and words.
You seem very grounded. So how do you stay balanced?
By grounding myself.
What is give me a bit of insight to your grounding.
Grounding to me is barefoot out in the garden. Sometimes my dad tells a story that he heard me coming down the driveway and I had a suit on. And next thing he's like, I didn't come in the door, and he's like, where is she now? And he said he just looked out the window and I was lying down barefoot with my hands in the grass, just lying there in my suit, just like breathing. And he went, I won't go near. And it was because I had such a stressful day that I was like, I am not bringing that energy into my home. My family are coming from dinner and there isn't a hope that I'm doing that to them. So I just went down. I just stick my feet in and I'm like, what can I feel? What can I smell? What can I hear? And it's all about bringing down to nature. It could be like children laughing across the field. It could be birds. It could be the tractor. Whatever it is, it's just, I feel the grass. I can feel the air. I can feel the rain, whatever it is. And like just breathing that in and coming back to just ground yourself. And like you can do that at any time. Like you don't have to be, like walking in the rain is probably one of the nicest things to do to clear your aura. It's just, it's a bit cold here. Like that's the problem. But grounding. I have a bath every week. It's my self-care day. Again, like a lot of people don't have that luxury, but I turn off my phone, I put on some opera music, I light some candles. It's just for me, just to balance myself and be really grateful for my feminine energy, because I think obviously running a business, like there isn't a decision that happens in my business that I do not have to make. And sometimes that is, your energy is completely pulled, where like I can feel my feminine energy behind my masculine going, oh, protect me. And you know, it's all about balancing that and making sure she's okay.
You mentioned the masculine and the feminine, something that we all have, both energies, you know, and some people, if you say that to them, they wouldn't understand what you're talking about.
I know, you have to be careful who you speak to, for sure.
But I would love to know, or you know, maybe if you can just give me an insight to how you manage the masculine. Where does your masculine energy come in, and where does your feminine energy come in?
So my masculine energy definitely overpowers my feminine. And I get that all the time. Anytime I speak to anybody, anytime I'm down with a shaman or a Reiki or reflexology or whatever it is, I try and do as much of those things as possible. They're like, oh, your masculine energy is a bit strong. And then, you know, it used to offend me. I used to get upset because I'm like, oh, I don't want to be masculine. And then I realized then it's just a masculine energy is the provider, it's the go-getter, it's the hunter, it's the decision maker. Like that's that person. I suppose as running my business, like that is the energy I need. I need that energy, that drive. But my feminine energy is when like I want to be looked after, and I think people want that anyway. Where like I try to look after myself feminine. Like I normally always have my nails pink and I would wear some lipstick, and sometimes I'm like I don't really know if that the superficial part is even enough. But I think like my bath and that kind of stuff, I just try and ground myself as much as possible. But I think until whatever happens with this business, like my masculine energy just has to be there, and I just need a more masculine man.
So you're saying you're on the market then?
Sometimes.
So you do talk about wanting to help people as well. Do you have something in mind, or is that something that you would like to explore in time, or?
I definitely, like, I talk to Jerry and Miriam Hussey all the time. I'm like, we need to set up a business. We need to do something. I'd love to open a wellness retreat, but like ayahuasca, is not that it's necessarily over expensive, but sometimes the people who really need it can't afford it. I would just love to help them. My biggest thing is, like, I want to help entrepreneurs, people who like just can't get money. Like, one of the hardest things that I had starting my business was like, oh well, we can't give you money until you have 2 years of accounts, but I need it now. Like, I think that's one of the biggest issues that, well, I had anyway. And I remember thinking, if I'm ever in a position to help people, I'm going to do that. If I create jobs and that, I'm definitely going to do that.
Good stuff. So how did you get going then in terms of money at the start?
Myself and my business partner Tom, we funded it. Now, he definitely funded more than I did, but just the two of us. We didn't want to go to our families at the beginning. We wanted to do it on our own, and then we were like, oh, we probably need to go. We need help now. Went to the banks, just no good. And yeah, just got through the first 2 years, and then went to the bank and we're like, right, now we've got 2 years. Can you show it? We need some money now. And then COVID hit, which was terrible. Went to my family. I remember one of my brothers were like, this is me like throwing money on a fire. And I was like, please, trust me, I'm telling you something good's about to happen. Trust me. And he was like, okay. And then I think it was like the following week or 2 weeks later, I met Russell Crowe. So I was like, and then I didn't tell anybody. I went down to meet him because I was like, who's going to believe me that I'm going down to have breakfast with Russell Crowe? And then by the time I had left, like, Russell was like, yeah, like, I'm all in. And I remember leaving, and I remember going up and they were like, what? Who? No, Laura, you didn't. And I was like, I did meet him.
Gladiator movie.
Yeah, and they were like, are you sure? And I was like, yes. Like, they thought I'd like somebody was spoofing me, but yeah, like, they're delighted. Like, they're over the moon, and like, I would be lost without my family. Like, they are just incredible people. Like, I love them and respect them and appreciate them all the time, and I tell them that all the time.
Yes, and you also do some, like, what I would call inspiring work where you talk to youngsters.
So like, I get asked to talk to women in business, and I've done a few of them, but again, something kind of happened to me. I was like, I don't really think I'm qualified to be talking to women in business when, like, I don't have a husband, I don't have to run a house, I don't have kids to look after while I'm setting up a business. So there was a wee bit of me, like, you know, I make it look easy, but it's not that I make it easy, but like, it's just me. Like, if I have to fly to Hong Kong, I just pick up my suitcase, I book my ticket, and I go. Like, I don't have to think about anybody else. So my whole thing then, I was asked then to go out and speak to, my first one was in Cairns School. And I remember thinking, oh my God, what am I going to do? I went down, and there was like 100 students. They were like literally sitting going, oh, who is this old bird? You know, like, who is this old person coming to talk to us?
You're a youngster, Laura.
Well, I know I am. I identify younger than them. But, you know, they were just looking at me as if like, oh. But yeah, I just felt, I was like, those children, like, I was a child once. And when you look at my story in paper, like, oh, she went to university, she got a law degree, she moved to London. Like, it looks like ... But it wasn't that simple. It was really, really hard. So like, I went back and explained to them, I was like, when I was your age, like, this is what I was going through, and this is what happened to me. And you're all going to get trauma. You're probably, most of you are probably living with it right now. But it's your responsibility. Either you choose to make a better life for yourself or don't. But it's up to you. No one else. Nobody owes you anything. No one's going to come and save you. I think the sooner you get that into their heads at that age, I think the better chance they have to decide. And the best thing was, I got like 3 emails from 3 of them, and yeah, it's been pretty good to watch their progression, and I'm extremely honoured to be part of it, and I'm very proud of them.
That's amazing. Do you mind me asking, was that males or females or both? Or
2 males, 1 girl.
That's good that a male reached out to,
you
know? Because you're not just inspiring to women, you're inspiring to men too.
Well, like, we're all energy, I suppose.
We are. But what I mean is, sometimes there's parts of society where you know, they can be sexist, and you know.
No, well, like, I got that quite a few times when I was in my career, but the last couple of years now, I don't have that. But again, maybe it's just like because I don't see myself as that. You know, I have every right to be in this career than anybody else does. I think people are more shocked that I or about it than I am. But heads down, just get on with it.
Good stuff. And then in Oz now, where you're heading back soon enough, what's the plan for the next year?
Oh, head down. Just need to execute it to the way it is. My whole thing is, it's, as I said, like I'm one person and I'm trying to be here and trying to be there. My thing is, if I go out and it works, at least I know it worked. And if it fails, at least I know I went out and worked. But it's near impossible to do it. So I've got a new CCO coming in, joining, and he's so experienced and he's going to be great. I've obviously got Niall, who's my right hand man. So like the business is like I trust him, and actually that's probably been the biggest thing. Like even like last week, he was like, "Oh, I got these meetings." I was like, "Oh, do you want me in it?" And he was like, "No," and I was like, "Oh." So like this is the first time this has happened. I was like, "Oh my god!" So this is part of me, you know, not having so much pressure on or
letting go.
Yeah, which that's just gonna be a journey in itself.
Yes. So, like, I want to revert back to the start. You know, when you had this idea and you brought it to people, where you had said it to your brothers and sisters, and they didn't understand, you know, the vision that you had at that time. Because,
of course not.
Sorry.
Of course they.
No, but that
I don't even know it myself.
But you had that vision at that age, and so many people have. You know, they have ideas and they have visions, and they bring them to their families, and their families don't see the same. Yeah.
Well, like,
what advice would you have for the likes of them?
I think I actually said, you know, at the beginning, do not go to your family for help. Like, as soon as you say to them, "Oh, I'm in trouble, I think I'm going to go bust," they instantly want to protect you. They instantly are like, "Oh my God," or, "Sure, why would you do that? Why stay in your job? Sure, you're great at it." And that was definitely something, like, I tell everyone. However, if I hadn't gone to my family last year for help, I wouldn't have a business. So it comes in two ways. I think at the beginning of your business, you have to surround yourself with mentors and like-minded people, and like join the networks. And you know, like even Jesus couldn't please everyone, and like you don't like everybody. I don't like everyone, but there's certain people you will instantly gravitate to. Let them be your tribe. Call them all the time. Pass ideas off them. The whole thing is like you can't do it on your own. Like no one can do anything on their own. And it's about being a wee bit vulnerable and just asking questions. Like I have no problem asking a stupid question because it's not stupid. I'll ask it, I'll have the answer, I'll never ask it again. There's nothing worse when people are sitting nodding head and they're saving face. Waste of time. You're wasting your time, you're wasting that person's time. So just go for it.
Yeah. And
fail, you fail. Fail stands for first attempt in learning.
Exactly, and it's a lesson. So is it really a failure when you're learning?
Of course not. Like when babies take their first steps and they fall down, we celebrate it.
And you said it there too. It's like asking that question. So many of us can be scared to ask that question. You know, it's not in us. It's like, oh, well, I look stupid, but
I know.
Just having the courage.
I know. Like normally when I had my whole team in London, if someone says something, I go, "Do you all understand what that means?" Just to be clear, and like obviously they would feel more comfortable saying no to me. And I'm like, don't leave this table not knowing what stuff are, because it's a waste of time. You'll ask it once, you'll never ask it again.
So for any youngsters interested in starting out, what would your 3 tips be?
Have a plan. I think know what your skill is, what is it that you're good at, and be the bloody best of it. Like I think that's probably one of the biggest thing. Reaching out, asking for help. Like probably 10 people might close the door on you. One will open it. Just having the belief. Keep yourself grounded is so important. Eating healthy is probably a big thing. I think now looking back, like, you know, you're just running, you're driving around, or you're just eating rubbish. Like I look at photographs of myself when I launched the business, and I'm like, oh my god, I look 10 years older. That was definitely something that anybody who's starting out, you need to have somebody there to, if you can't do it yourself, you need to make sure that you're having some proper diet looking after you.
And what about the people out there who are like, you know, constantly watching TV or addicted to their smartphones, constantly feeding themselves with information? What any advice for the likes of them?
Yeah, well, like my thing is for my feed, like I don't follow some of my best friends, and it's not because I don't love them. I'm not in their headspace of what they're doing in their life, and sometimes I used to panic, going, "What am I doing?" Like absolutely broke, living out of suitcases when I could easily be a professional wife, but like what was I doing it for? So I think like for my feed, you've got to protect your feed. I think it's so important. Have affirmations, follow mentors, follow entrepreneurs, unfollow anyone that makes you feel rubbish. Anybody like fake lives, like most of those people who are living highlights probably don't even have 10,000 in savings. So like it's not real. Don't get me wrong, regards to TV and stuff, if you want to have a lazy day, have a lazy day. Like, we are constantly hardening ourselves that, if we're not doing something, like, we're failing in life. That's not it. Like, we always say, rest in peace. We're like, we should live in peace. Like, I always think that. I say, we should live soft lives. It's about having that balance. But, your social media, gotta be careful, especially with the young generation. It's non-stop now.
I think what happens is we can get caught up in comparison,
of course,
and then we're thinking this is who we want to be, and then we instantly feel
like guilty, just feeling, not feeling. Comparison. You're comparing yourself to anyone, but like even that, like parents need to stop comparing their siblings to each other. Oh, your brother wouldn't do that. Your sister wouldn't do that. Oh, your brother got A's there. Your sister, whatever. Like, stop that. Like, that's my whole thing about my stars. You'll shine in your own time. You come in different sizes. The moon and the moon and the sun shine at different times, but they shine.
They do.
And I think that's definitely another thing that people need to be aware of.
Yeah, we're all meant to be different. We're not all meant to be the same.
But love is the same.
Love is. We are all love, just different versions of it.
Yeah.
Laura.
Ryan.
You are such an inspiring woman. Do you know that?
You're going to make me blush now.
You really, really are.
Thank you.
Like, this is only the second time I've spoken with you, and the first time we spoke, I was like, whoa, let's not try to talk too much. I want to save the conversation for the first time we meet in person,
That was a good talk.
Yeah,
it was Thank
beautiful.
You so much.
It really was. You're a very wise woman, and it's so good to hear you talk about the plants and nature, because that's what we are.
Yeah.
We are nature. We come from the ground.
Yeah, I think a lot of it people think it's like airy-fairy, or like, people like barefoot living in the forest, but those people barefoot living in the forest are happy.
Yeah, they are. And I've seen them in the jungle, walking up barefoot, living in huts with no running water, and they're singing up and down the forest. It's just like amazing.
Sure, one of the shamans from the Brazilian Amazon, we were talking, and he's like, "What is this anxiety everyone talks about?" And I was like, "Well, you know that feeling?" And he was like, "No." And he was like, you guys have created that. We don't have that. I was like, oh my goodness.
Do you know what? That's true. So what I've heard is in certain I'm going to call them tribes, them cultures where they live in the jungle, they don't have words for so maybe they don't have the word for anxiety because it doesn't exist, and they also don't have the word for cancer because it doesn't exist.
Yeah.
So what I've heard is, I'm not sure if you've heard this or not.
Well, tell me.
Yeah, well, basically, we've created a word. So when we create a word, it creates a spell. So to say in the word cancer and you give meaning to it, then it's an energy that we create as a society, and then that manifests in a different way. So because they don't live the way that we live, therefore the word doesn't exist.
Yeah. Well, that's what he said to me about spelling. When we say words out, don't ever speak ill about yourself, because the universe doesn't know when you're joking or not. Mm-hmm. So spelling is a spell that you put on. And I was like, oh, whoa.
Yeah.
That's a little bit witchcrafty for me, but I love it.
Yeah. No, I'm with it too. When someone said that to me, I was like, let's just stop the self-depreciating, even though you're joking, because your body doesn't know whether you're joking or not.
Because sometimes I say I'm reading a funny meme, but it's like, oh, my life is rubbish. I'm like, I didn't say that. I'm reading that, but I do. I come very much aware of it. I'm like, no, mine's fine.
Oh, jeez. No, there's so much out there, Laura, but it's been great. An absolute pleasure. I'm Likewise. so happy to have this conversation with you, and I've no doubt that we'll be in touch.
For sure, absolutely.
And who knows, we may have another conversation some other day.
Well, please God. Thank you so much for your time. I've really enjoyed it.
Thank you for your time. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
How did you get on with that? I really enjoyed it anyway. You know, it was really nice to just have that conversation with Laura. You know, when we did speak initially, we really spoke a lot about what we have talked in this episode. And, you know, it's funny because we both have business backgrounds, but our conversation was just, we just instantly felt towards love, you know, and just talking about existence and really loving ourselves. And, you know, because that's what we truly believe in. That is the power of love. And, you know, we talked about the plants and the mushrooms and ayahuasca and how they can help us along that journey that never ending journey that we're on, and just keep coming back to more and more and more love, you know. And I'm sure you gathered from our conversation of, you know, how much she cares about looking after herself and looking after others and just nature in general. So it was really, really, really good to have that conversation with her. And, you know, I definitely know that we'll have another conversation in the future. But yeah, that's all for now. So I want to thank you again for listening, and I ask you to remember that you are the infinite creator.